drug driving. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
The following show is paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion on life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Thank you so much for being here every Saturday at 9 a.m. Have you heard the announcement? This is going to be just this weekend, I think, in maybe 2 more weekends. I haven't looked at my calendar, but we are going to be switching to streaming only starting in February, and that means that right now, please find your social media platform, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or X. That's where you can hear the show. We will be doing the show, just not on the radio, but we will be streaming it. And if you need a reminder, I forgot your phone number. I'm so sorry. Do I give you the phone number? It's up. Oh, it's up online. All you have to do is text Sidebar to that phone number, and we will send you a little reminder of when the show is going to be on. So what's trending in the news this week? As usual, there's so much going on. The Fed chair has been subpoenaed. I need to know what that means. Greenland's in the news again. Let's see. The Nobel Peace Prize is now in the hands of President Trump, and people went crazy about that. And I know it was symbolic, but people still just went nuts. President Trump now threatening to use the Insurrection Act in Minnesota because of protests and what's happening with the ICE agents. And all of this and much, much more we will be talking about here on Sidebar. And every week you can come here to hear the former Bexar County District Attorney Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. And instead of starting the show with, what is a woman? Because that was also in the news this week. Nico, I was hoping that maybe we could get an update on the trial that you are taking part in this week. I've been watching it all week, the Uvalde school shooting. And it's on Court TV if anybody wants to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, it's not over yet. So we're still in it. So yeah, we're still in it. We probably have a week left. So
Wow.
We're starting our 3rd week. It's horrific scenario. I mean, our client is not Adrian is not responsible for the horror that happened that day, but the actual facts behind this case are the worst I've ever seen. The pictures and the videos are the worst I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot in my career. And it's heartbreaking. We're with the parents. We're not against the parents. We understand the righteous anger. We understand the outrage. We just humbly believe it's misdirected at Adrian. And we think and we believe, and we've been working on showing that in trial, turning witnesses around, but again, people can say you're doing a good job or whatever, but it's all about the jury. So I'm always reserved, and I'm never at peace until the verdict comes back. So let's see. We're going to keep on fighting next week.
One of the things that you said even before the trial started is you always like to have alternates. And I know that people that have not been a juror or really don't know the law as well as maybe they should. What is even the reason for an alternate juror? And you've already used one, right?
We used one the other day because you need 12 jurors. I mean, you have to, by agreement, you can have a verdict of 11 people by both sides, but you would have a mistrial. And then if you were working weeks in a trial, then all that would have to start over again. And many times you don't want to. Maybe you like your jury, maybe you like the way the evidence has come out, you can't. And now the witness knows what you're going to testify to either way for the government or for the defense. And so you have alternates. Depending on the length of a trial and the severity of a trial, you'll have anywhere between 2 to 4. We chose 4, and the judge agreed. Mm-hmm. And so we have 3 left. We don't want to get any further into it. So we used one alternate. And so because something happened with his wife and she had surgery, and so prayerfully, hopefully she's fine.
Okay.
We hope she's okay. But that's it. Yeah, so that's why you have alternates, because you want to make sure you have a 12-member unanimous decision.
It's incredible, the things that you see. I have to just say this. We're going to go on to the topics, but it is incredible to watch on court TV, yes, because you're actually seeing the trial live, but it's more incredible to see what people say and comments. And I don't even know if you've seen it, Nico, but good. But it's incredible because you think that, I don't know, it's great to see other people finally come to a conclusion, maybe that I've come to already about this trial, because it is so emotional. People want to blame somebody, they want to put the finger, and
Look,
you finally
there's a lot of blame to go around. You know, the facts that's already come out. I mean, the door was unlocked. Both doors were unlocked. They should have been locked. There was policies. There was no full-time officer appointed to that school. There were other officers with better line of sight than Adrian. Our client was on the southeast side of the building. This animal entered on the west side of the building, and there was officers on the west side of the building. I mean, so there's so much. This stuff's already come out, so I'm not saying anything that's not already out in the public. I mean, so there's all these things now, but you're fighting against emotion. The government has tried this case like it's a capital murder, because it is, but it's the wrong person sitting in the seat. I mean, the animal that's responsible for this horror is dead. I believe he's in hell and he's been judged. But I understand there's an emotion, there's a human side to it. It's emotional. We feel for the family. You know, look, I've been through it with my mom. I mean, you know, my parents, my family. You know, Mike wasn't a child. It's different when it's a fourth grader versus a 20-something-year-old. But still, I mean, it was in our driveway. My parents came out. I came out. My younger brother came out. My aunt was staying with us. I loaded his body on the gurney. I helped my pop wash my brother's blood off my driveway. I mean, I didn't go to sensitivity school. I mean, I went through some life, and so I feel for them. I have true empathy, not as a parent, thankfully, but I saw it. I picked up my mom off the driveway. I've talked about that many, many times before, so I don't divorce myself from these experiences, and it causes me to feel for the family. So I understand the emotion. I'm not offended by it. I just pray for peace over them, and that they can illuminate the truth for them, so they can, because it's you hold on to anger. I lived with it for so many years. I self-diagnosed myself as a functioning angerholic for
I've
years
heard you say that.
when I talk in prisons or when I talk to groups. And it wears on you. It really weighs you down. It's cancer to your soul. And so, but it's understandable. So I'm praying for them. I hope and pray that they're seeing the truth. I think there's a lot of things that are being revealed to even people that were opposed to Adrian initially. And I'm, like, to your point, I've been told that there's a lot of people that are, hey man, I completely look at this differently. And so that's all we want. We
Gosh,
want the
it's
truth
so
to be exposed.
important.
I think you're a particularly empathic defense attorney. You seem to really, you know, a lot of people talk about caring about the cause of justice, et cetera, et cetera. It's a nice little cliche, but when you're in the court, you seem to sort of embody the passions and the intensity that the jury feels, and you seem to be really connecting with them. I mean, I think that's a strength. Do you think about that? I mean, do you feel yourself connecting at that level? Like, because you said you have personal experiences that tie to the loss of someone dear to you, but just in general, I mean,
you want credibility with a jury, and one thing I will not lose is my authenticity. I mean, I say words that maybe most people don't say in trial. I mean, I said SOB. I call him a monster because he's a monster. And I have a different trial style, but I want it to be authentic. I want a jury to think that's how this dude is outside of trial. Because I want them to know. You want them to trust you, and that's all I want. And I'm not going to do it any other way than authentic. Whether you like me or not, what you see is what you get, and I hope that comes across in my trial style. I believe it does, and that's what so I don't have a podium personality. I don't have a pulpit personality. George, I don't have a public personality versus a private one. I just want to be myself, and I hope it comes out in my trial style. But I do try to place myself in the juror's position. What would I want to see, and how would I want it said to me? How would I want it explained to me for me to get to the end level where I want them to be, which would benefit our clients. So that's my approach.
I know that this is like two totally different topics, but it kind of reminds me this week of President Trump, and when he toured that Ford plant and somebody started shouting at him and saying, "Pedophile, you're a convicted felon," and he flipped the bird at him.
He did?
and did more than that. He said,
he used the,
He literally said,
F you. Wow.
But
it was called he called him pedophile protector. I mean,
was that an authentic self moment?
Yeah, look, I've always said that about Trump. You get what you get, good and the bad. And what people like about him also frustrates. For me, what I love about him, it frustrates the crap out of me about him. So it's like the same personality gets me riled up and then also gets me excited.
But on a moment like that, don't you think, would you think that most people in America would have done the same thing if somebody was yelling at them like that? I know he's the president,
but everyone's got a different style, and but that's his choice. I mean, he believes he knows it's not true, so he's going to defend himself. look, even his detractors will say, well, this guy's real. Now, Trump has set this new standard because now every politician feels like they need to cuss.
Yeah.
What is it, the mayor of what's-his-face, that little, weirdo boy? He just said, like, F off ICE, F off. Everybody's a tough guy now. Okay, tough guy.
Jacob Fry.
Yeah, there you go, that dude.
I mean, let's talk about ICE. I mean, what the heck is going on in that city? Why are they pushing this so hard?
Well, people are, I mean, that's the biggest employer in that city seem to be these whoever's supporting these whatever riots or whatever they're doing. Look, these people are being, not all of them probably, but this is not an organic movement. I think people have seen that before. And this is not weird. I mean, this Insurrection Act, quote unquote, of 1807 has been used over 30 times in American history. I mean, from George Washington to John Adams to Lincoln, Grant, George H. Bush, JFK. I mean, Eisenhower used it in Little Rock for those 9 black children to be walked into school, and then JFK in Alabama. I mean, so this has been used before. If there's federal laws that are being trampled on and not being enforced, a president has a right to do that. Now, there's 2 ways to invoke it. Governor can ask for help. If the governor doesn't ask for help, the president can use to enforce the federal law. He can say, you don't want the help? I'm going to enforce federal law. That's my domain. That's my authority. And so if we're looking at this objectively, and not subjectively, and we take off our political tribe hat, everybody do that, please. You've had presidents on both sides do this, and you have over 30, around 30 times. George probably knows the actual number. All I'm saying is this is nothing new. Check. So don't rag on Trump that he's trampling on the Constitution. He's making up his own rules. He's a dictator, because that's disingenuous. If that's going to be your position, with all due respect, that's disingenuous, because you're not objectively supporting your position.
But don't you think it's hard to understand sometimes when there are all these lawsuits, and that's the lead story in the news that say it is illegal and what he's doing is wrong and it's against the Constitution? That's the side of the story, I would say, the majority
Well, there's so many hacks reporting our trial wrong. I mean, completely wrong. Or they only report the direct. Well, the direct sounds great until the cross-examination begins. I mean, so...
But they've already left town.
But they've already left town, and they have a headline because it's sexy.
Okay, we are going to take a break. Ooh, too much to talk about. You got to stick with us. And remember, go on social media right now and find your platform, because we're going to continue after the show. This is Sidebar. We'll be right back.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Nico, before we start on any topic, I hope that you and George are able to explain this, because we have so many comments after I said we are not going to be on the radio anymore, but we're going to be streaming. If you are on
Or some of them said good.
Facebook.
Good riddance.
No.
So with streaming, look, I'm technologically challenged. So let me tell you. So I'm going to explain it to other friends that are technologically challenged. So streaming just means Facebook, Instagram, whatever, X, or
YouTube.
whatever it is, YouTube, whatever social platforms that Salo has us set up on. We're going to continue. We're already doing that. So if you're watching this by any other means and listening to this by any other means than radio, then nothing's going to change.
If you're on Facebook listening, that's where you'll hear it.
What Karen is trying to warn people is the people that are listening by radio, while they're driving on the radio, that portion only is going to stop. We're going to just continue on streaming, meaning social platforms, social media platforms.
So if you're on Facebook and you're listening and watching the
Nothing's
show,
gonna change
good to
for you.
go.
Yep,
we will continue exactly the same way.
And if you're on the radio, find a social media platform. That's all you were trying to say. SidebarTV.com. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's where you can find out wherever we're going to be. And so somebody said, are you telling me that there's going to be something better at 9 o'clock than Sidebar? Come on, let me know if that's true.
I don't know.
Thank you so much. It is weird what's going on in Minneapolis, but also it's weird with the protest. It's weird because it's just a combination of a million things. It's the fraud. It's the. I just can't think of a more perfect storm for ugly.
I don't think it's an accident that the fraud story took a second.
Yeah.
Took a second seat
Yes.
to this, and I don't think that's accidental at all. I think we're talking about multiple billions of dollars, and it was counting. I mean, Nico threw out the number early that the AG in Minnesota had shared, which is that it was around $9 billion.
Billion.
Right. The real number is twice that. He says, so it's at least half that. So, and growing. And there's no question that Tim Walz's office is implicated. We don't know the extent to which, but they are at least implicated in the sense that there have been repeated warnings. This is documented. This isn't like hearsay. There have been repeated warnings to his office, Nico. And it's sort of a ring of fraud. It's Walz's office. It's the Attorney General Keith Ellison. And it's Jacob Fry in Minneapolis. Excuse me. Including, by some accounts, Ilhan Omar. So if you are a prominent politician in Minnesota, you don't come to the table with clean hands. That's how wide the net has been cast, and it's been the appeals to Walz's office to get involved early and to actually investigate the issue seriously has been repeatedly blown off. And so the idea that until this started happening with Renee Good last week, that the chances that Tim Walz, because remember, he stepped down in the sense that he's not running for re-election. That was just the beginning of the story. Yeah. And who knows where that would have led. There were reports from legitimate news sources. I mean, whether you're right, left, center, whatever, it doesn't matter. News sources reporting that the likelihood of an arrest was real. And so that's where it was going. And then this. So the notion that somehow that had nothing to do with it, I just don't buy it. The timing seems to me a little curious.
This dude was almost our vice president.
And then there's that. And then there's that. So, but we were analyzing you said it was a good shoot with, again, not good in the sense that she was killed, but good in the sense that it was perhaps legally justifiable shooting. And I think in the aftermath of you saying that, there have been reports that corroborate that under further analysis. What's happened since then is that you've had riots. This escalated into a riot scenario, and it happened on Wednesday. And that's why we're talking about the Insurrection Act. Now, that's why Trump's brought it up again. Because this is completely blown out of control. They were doing a targeted immigration enforcement operation, Nico, on Wednesday, and there was a Venezuelan illegal alien that was at issue. He was in a car, took chase, smashed into something, got out, started running away, was chased down by an ICE officer. They wrestled on, right? I mean, it was a fight on the actual... They hit the ground fighting.
2 more guys.
And then 2 other quote-unquote neighbors came out, one with a broom, the other one with a shovel, and started beating the crap out of this ICE officer. And in the defense move, he shot one of the guys in the leg, and I guess they sort of, barricaded themselves in a nearby building and were flushed out by reinforcements later. And so this then spurred massive riots. And you saw the use of incendiary devices. You saw the throwing of rocks and ice and so forth against ICE officers. I just want to say what should be obvious. It is illegal. It is a felony to impede a lawful law enforcement operation. Let's just start there. Yep. This is not how we do things in America. There is a system. Okay, you got a problem? There's a system to channel those grievances. It's a legal system. Use it. You can't just start taking the law in your own hands and beating up on law enforcement officers. Where's that stop? So that's what happened. This became riotous. It's almost like what happened in the LA riots when Trump originally said, look, I might have to invoke the Insurrection Act. So it's in this environment that Trump is saying we can't perform legally protected activity here. You guys are getting in the way of us enacting U.S. laws, and obviously law enforcement, because the Minnesota law enforcement stood down. The police department literally stood down and watched this happen. And so what is the president's recourse here? That's why the Insurrection Act has been brought.
I'm surprised he's taking this long. I mean, the law is clear.
I agree.
Obstructions, combinations, meaning groups of people or assemblages or rebellion that make it impossible to enforce the laws of the United States. Now, you have a right to peacefully assemble. No, but this is not peaceful. And you can't impede. In Texas law, it's interference with the duties of a public servant. If you're trying to interfere with someone arresting somebody, you can't do that. And so that being said, this is why this is illegal. The president can act. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't act, and he should have been acted already, in my opinion. Now, procedurally, he has to issue a warning to disperse. That's the prerequisite to using the Insurrection Act. So issue the warning. Now, he can issue the warning and then maybe pause a little bit, but I would have issued the warning already.
But what happens after he does invoke it and he has the warning? Then what next?
Well, the act specifically allows the president to deploy troops without a request from the affected state. But Nico's right. There's a pre-warning, and it's got to be an explicit warning. Like there's going to be, we're going to invoke the act unless. What Trump's been doing is he hasn't been tying those things together until now. He's been saying, look, you guys better get it under control. You better get it under control. And he's talking to politicians because you've had Tim Walz, and this is where it gets really interesting because Tim Walz could be arrested for this. There's a political hit on the side of this. Right. There's a political calculation. I think that's what's at issue here, because nobody wants the image, and Democrats are just baiting. Yeah. They're just wanting this to happen. They want the photo shoots. They want the clips, right, of American military. There's authoritarian Trump. They want the sound bites. But when Tim Walz is out there, along with Jacob Fry, calling ICE an invading force. Yeah. These are federal troops trying to carry out constitutionally protected activity and statutorily protected activity, which is to enforce the nation's laws concerning illegal immigration. But the guy in question is an illegal alien, and
George,
he called him a Minnesotan.
Can you imagine the vice president candidate calling the enforcement of federal law an illegal force? I mean, the ICE agents an illegal force. Now, you can make the arguments on some one-offs that they overstep their. I got it. I mean, look, we're not going to ignore the reality that there's imperfect application of laws. That's always going to happen. That is not an excuse not to enforce laws. But if this guy was the vice president and Harris was the president, just for a second, imagine this country. Just for a second, the border would have continued to be. We'd have another year of this. Of the port, the valley, it would not be the valley anymore. The border would not be the border anymore. No. The border would have pushed up into Texas, mid-Texas, San Antonio by now, maybe Dallas. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm just saying, it's the mindset. It's a set of ideas. This is how these people think. And this is why John Fetterman, to me, my prayer, if people can pray for something and encourage something, that the Democrat Party goes back to John Fetterman. That he leads the Democrat, because then we have civility. We have respect. We can agree on things without thinking, I'm giving away some political assets here by agreeing with you. No, I'm agreeing with an idea. Happens to be your party thought of it. Good for you, but I'm going to support it. So now it's our idea now. So now we have to argue over some other different idea. I want John Fetterman to be the standard for Democrats. I really do.
Can you believe you're saying that?
Well,
Isn't that crazy?
It's hard to believe, but it's true. And
they lost JFK and Tulsi Gabbard.
I've said it multiple times how dead wrong I was about John Fetterman. And I'm so glad to be wrong about him, because the way it started out, it was really scary. And it's amazing. The guy's been a voice of clarity. And you're right. I'd love to see the Democratic Party return to that standard of sanity. But this is where we are right now. And I agree. I mean, why hasn't it been invoked? I think we know why. There is a political cost. But if this continues, if this continues to happen, I don't see how you can avoid it. I mean, you've seen the destruction. Listen, it's the impediment of the execution of U.S. law, and you see the destruction of federal property. You saw it in the L.A. riots. So how long can this continue? And look, at least Trump will be able to say, look, how much more patient could I possibly have been? So that works in his favor. But if this continues, I don't see how I can avoid it.
I think the waiting is a political move. I mean, it has to be. It doesn't make any sense. But the problem is, if one person dies in that process, you're like, why did you wait? Because you can't press rewind. That's the problem. And so I think he's well within his legal authority to do something. I think he should do something. This is terrible. You can't run a country this way. And that's it. And
but
we need order.
In the meantime, I would say the media, you hear, it's just payback time. President Trump it's payback time for Tim Walz, who was, running against him, and Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, because he won't do what he says. It's payback time. How do you even say that with a straight face, thinking that what he's doing is to try and make America great again? I mean, that's the basic part of it.
Look, I mean, there's an argument for warfare on this side, too. I mean, look, Trump, and I'm not justifying his actions. I mean, people tried to put him in prison for the rest of his life. I mean, they tried to destroy his family. It's different. Again, it doesn't mean that you respond with the same way or you respond inappropriately, But this is what I've warned people from the beginning. Be careful of the world you help create, because someday you may live in it. Now, there's going to be some people on our side, because I see the comments. I do read our comments because I want to respond to them, to our show. That say, well, they started, that's what they get. Okay, there's an argument for that. That's what you get. And then when there's President Newsom or AOC, then that's what we get. And that's what you get later on if we can regain power. And then there's going to be some point you can't regain power. Because at some point, Bexar County went blue. You didn't regain power. I mean, Susan Reed was the DA for 16 years. Judge Sid Harrell, the judge in this case, in Uvalde, he's the administrative judge for that region. He was on the bench for almost 30 years, Republican. There was Sharon McRae, Angelini. There was a bunch of Republican judges. Juanita Vasquez Garner for years. You can't. Burt Richardson until that's when the swing started happening, and so now you have to be. You're going to be them. The Republican cannot be at this point elected countywide here. So at some point nationally, there's no going back. Is there no swing? And I don't know what it is. Yep. And so that's why when I give my advice, when I do my analysis, when I stand on objective principles, I want to make sure that it's not the tit for tat. Well, you did this, and it's my turn because okay, king of the mountain. You better be a bigger king, and you better control that mountain.
There is some. I mean, I speak at this. I mean, I think it's vile and disgusting how these people have turned their own citizens against the country. But you have to, in a sense, admire it, how effective it's been. You've seen decades of indoctrination, and now they've militarized that. So you literally have people who are loaded with self-loathing. As much as they talk about hatred, Nico, it's fascinating to me that all that hatred is really directed at self. The amount of self-hatred that you see, the self-loathing. I think about what happened with Renee Good. I mean, did she actually, the way she was acting, I mean, just virulently, that she was out there, impeding legally protected activity from a federal agency, screaming in the faces of officers, doing what she's doing, and literally believing that no harm could come to her. I mean, these men have guns.
Yes.
It's a childish, immature, hateful, and self-loathing and deluded view of the world. Where is this coming from? She wasn't born thinking that.
Did you see
Who taught her that?
Did you see some video of her? Was it her dad or her stepdad?
No, I haven't seen that.
I did.
Who was it?
It was her father.
Her dad. Strong Christian. Amazing response. Amazing practical response. You could tell he'd been dealing with her ideology for a while. That's what I read into it. I know we got to go to break, huh? Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Great interview he did.
Okay, so if it's payback time for Tim Walz and Jerome Powell, the big question is, what did Greenland do? Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
This is News Radio 1200 WOAI San Antonio, an iHeart radio station guaranteed human. Now, the latest news, weather, and traffic from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Car studio.
I'm Eric Lycombe at News Radio 1200 WOAI. Ken Paxton takes a pot shot at John Cornyn and Jasmine Crockett in an AI-generated campaign ad. Details coming up first, traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
35 northbound, the off-ramp to Evans Road is closed due to construction. On I-10 westbound between UTSA Boulevard and Loop 1604, we have that roadway closed due to construction. I'm Alexis, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Red flag warning in effect. 57 later, we've got sunshine, breezy 45 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center, our top story. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's obviously AI-generated ad creating controversy ahead of the Republican primary elections. The ad shows incumbent Senator John Cornyn in a slow dance with Democrat candidate Jasmine Crockett, highlighting their bipartisan work.
Cornyn and Crockett, the perfect pair.
Cornyn's campaign had no comment. Crockett's campaign said the ad shows her strong suits. Breaking news. San Antonio police on the lookout for a suspect they say shot and killed a man on the west side. Officers were called out just after 4 a.m. and when cops arrived, they found a male with a gunshot wound in his car, pronounced dead at the scene. Detectives noted the car and neighboring residence had multiple bullet holes. No suspect info available. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour. Breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycombe on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Thank you so much for being here. We want to remind you that if you are watching the show on Facebook or YouTube or any other platform, you're fine. If you are only listening on WOAI, make sure you find a social media platform because starting in February, that's where you'll hear the show. So Trump gets handed the Nobel Peace Prize, and then he starts talking about Greenland and how he may impose tariffs and to countries that don't go along with this push to take control of Greenland. Can somebody explain this to me? I mean, I know
you picked up two things. I mean, from what I saw on the Nobel Peace Prize, if I was Trump, my 2 cents is probably worth 2 cents. I would have said, man, what a wonderful gesture, but no thank you.
Well, wait a second. Why
would he want to take the Nobel Peace Prize from somebody else? That's like someone getting a verdict in a jury trial. Let me give you my verdict. I don't want your verdict. I want my verdict.
I know, but what if a team wins the Stanley Cup and then the team comes and hands him, the trophy?
Nope, I don't want it. And I'm going to proudly display it as if I want it? No. First of all, you either say the Nobel Peace Prize isn't worth crap, or it's worth something, and then you have to get it the right way, and it's a crappy process.
No symbolism there.
I don't want it. I mean, to me, I want to. I don't want to win at all costs. I want to win. I want to be proud of my wins. And so, I would have said the gesture alone would have been, wow, what a wonderful gesture. Thank you for that honor. Thank you for that acknowledgement. I'm humbled by your affirmation and encouragement. But thank you. You deserve it. You've earned it. You've earned it. And thank you for believing that I've earned it. But
George is being silent.
No, I think the nature of the gift, makes it untransferable. It's somebody's achievement. It was given to them, so it's a little weird. But
yeah.
But what he did with Maduro and the whole Venezuela thing, I thought of it as symbolism more than.
But I wouldn't have taken it. I'm not saying that the gesture isn't good. I understand the humble gesture. I wouldn't have taken it. As if, where are you going to put it up? Are you going to put it in your case? I'd be like, hey, look at me. I got the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, you did, and you were handed the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't want it.
Well, Dr. Jill Biden took the doctor title, so.
And we criticize her for it.
And this is probably the only analysis like this that you'll hear anywhere because the media doesn't think in these terms. So they were just thinking of, Trump. It's Trump, so it's got to be bad.
He thinks he got the Nobel Peace Prize.
No. Look, he deserves it.
It's just a matter
Can we just say that? He deserves it.
Yeah, if anyone deserves it.
But either you believe that that's a hack process now, or you think it's legit and get it legit. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But Greenland. Okay, enormous wealth, natural resources.
Yeah,
this is not the first. There's been past offers on Greenland purchase. Andrew Johnson in 1867 bought Alaska, was talking about Greenland. In 1946, there was an offer to buy Greenland for, what is it, George? 1 million gold bars under Truman.
Shoot.
I'm sure that was a ton of money.
What a sale.
And so, I understand why and Trump's right knowing that that's a strategic pickup. Like, people didn't realize Alaska at the time, and they're like, oh, crap, good job, Johnson, on Alaska. But hey, good job, man. But I don't agree with his approach. I would want someone, and look, George knows the polls better than I do. I'm just doing really quick catch up at the last minute because I've kind of been busy this week. But so I would want Greenland, and it seems like the polls play this out, to have this fear of missing out. I want to be part of the U.S. Look at all this U.S. prosperity. Yes, we want to be part of the U.S. And the polls bear out that they were leaning towards the United States taking control of Greenland or having a part of it. And now when you say like military force not off the table, the numbers are going down. You're losing support. Why? The psychology tells you nobody wants to be threatened. I don't know anybody that wants to be threatened. I'm not saying people don't act better under threats, but I just think I don't think it's a good strategic move. I would invite them to join the sphere of prosperity in the United States. And then you make moves, and then in the last minute, if you have to do something, so be it, in the interest of the United States, as long as it's moral and ethical and legal. But I don't know, just not my approach, but everyone has their opinion, I'm sure.
So, because it didn't get a whole lot of airtime in Trump 1.0, this was an issue for Trump. And the issues, the things that you're talking about, the appeals, the conversations, a lot of these happened in Trump 1.0. And they were, we know what happened. Trump wasn't reelected, or he was, but we'll save that for another day, depending on your view on this. But the bottom line is that those conversations came to a screeching halt. But Trump was raising these concerns, and in his view, God bless you. In his view, and I think Marco Rubio would support that as Secretary of State, these are existential concerns. And it's more than the oil. I mean, there's some, by most estimates, by the U.S. Geological Survey, what's under Greenland is actually what's under the United States. About the same, 30, 31, 32 billion barrels of oil. That's a lot of oil. It's not just the oil. It's not just the hard minerals. There's something that is a real issue right now that has nothing to do with wealth at all, and that is the serious military concerns. NATO itself has reported over the years, this isn't just now, this has been building up, kind of like Venezuela. It's been building up, and politicians don't pay attention to it. You know, here in the United States, we're wrapped up in social media, chasing crap that doesn't have any value. Meanwhile, Trump comes along, he actually thinks about these things, and he raises it, and we act like it's totally new or it's unprecedented or it's a big deal, not just for the purchase element of it. I know we've bought territory in the past.
Sure.
But also because of the strategic concern that it is to the United States. Not later, but right now. He thinks, in fact, Trump thinks we're way behind the 8 ball because there's been report after report after report for NATO, and nobody's doing anything about it, of China and Russia, incursions by China and Russia in the Arctic Circle. And he's concerned about that. Very concerned about it.
Rightfully so?
Rightfully so. Yeah. Opening up shipping lanes, opening up water lanes, icebreakers, bringing in radar capability, and installing incrementally military-capable equipment. And so Trump's worried about it, very worried about it. Here's the other issue. We also have a military base there in Greenland.
Yep.
And it is the northernmost base. And we've invested a crap ton of money in Greenland. And here's the other issue. I think this is the biggest issue of it all, and that is the fact that a lot of satellite data gets downloaded to ground stations in Greenland. And it's used for military strategic purposes. We have the ability right now, by virtue of those bases in Greenland, to be able to detect, because of where it's located, if there's a missile that's launched from Russian territory. It gives us a huge advantage because of an infrared signature. We can know the second a missile is launched from Russia right now. And that information is then communicated to Northern Command in California and Colorado here in the United States. And so Trump is concerned, legitimately so, because he knows if you control space, you control the earth. And so we've invested a ton of money in Greenland. And so for that to come under capture in any way, shape, manner, or form, it's completely unacceptable. This is an existential concern. And so I'm just skimming the surface here. There's a lot of details here. But this is real. They've been bitching about it for a while. I don't know if you can say that on the radio, but I guess it's too late.
You can.
For a while, they've been complaining about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. Trump's saying, no, this isn't some future problem. This is a now problem. And so it is unacceptable for the United States, given our investment in Greenland, given our relationship with Greenland, given everything that's at stake. Because what's NATO going to do? That's what he's, what's NATO going to do? Seriously, what's NATO going to do against Russia? How effective has NATO been with that? By the way, what is NATO? North American Treaty Organization. Who is the number one funder of NATO? Take a wild guess.
We are.
Okay, so it's the United States. Can we stop just, jacking around for a while here? So Trump's saying, we have to take leadership on this. I'm done talking. Now, when Trump says he's done talking, he's not really done talking. but he's trying to push the issue, Nico. He's trying to bring a sense of urgency and emergency about this. And I think it's legit. I think that there's way too much at stake here, and you've seen China and Russia incrementally build influence and build infrastructure. And FYI, it doesn't take too long for that switch to go. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves on the outside looking in. So most Americans aren't aware of this. I think it's unfortunate. I do think the White House needs to stay on it, but needs to communicate more than, hey, we got to have Greenland. You continue to explain this. But there's a lot at stake here, I think. A lot.
So is there resistance right now? Because I thought in the beginning everybody was talking about it and saying,
more people
this is
are on
something
board
to think about
initially.
it.
That's my point. This is the whole, I want to be part of this fear of prosperity and fear of missing out. That approach was better. Eric, or what, the Trump Jr., whoever went to go visit one of the Trump, and they made a big to-do about it. Yes, we want to be part of you. We want to feel protected. We want your prosperity. We're going to benefit from this. What have you done for me lately? All that's the right approach. But this, that's like a mafia move, man. We're going to come in with force. You want to be my business partner, right?
I know.
I'm a good business partner. You really want to be my business partner. I guess I want to be your business partner. Do I have a choice? Not really. Okay. I mean, you're not going to get loyalty that way. And so I just don't think it's, look, now NATO countries, did I read this correctly, George? NATO countries are deploying troops to Greenland for quote unquote training operations. Well, are they sending a message like, hey, we'll support, we'll defend? I mean, that's never, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, so this is, it's just, they're
trying to show that they can deploy at a moment's notice.
But why?
No, but this is...
They're sending a message to Trump.
They're sending a message to Trump.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
But everybody's laughing at the White House because they know that if there was an actual threat, what's NATO going to do? When has NATO shown any kind of backbone or strength or resolve?
Never.
Please, give me a break.
All I'm saying is I don't like any unforced errors. You know what I'm saying? You don't need it. I'm not saying he doesn't take a harsher position. But man... You get my pop taught me a lot of things. He says you get more with honey than vinegar. So use honey at first, then bring out the vinegar.
Give me an example of an unforced error you're concerned about. Like, play it out.
Well, I mean, if you, now that the headlines are NATO sending message to Trump, and now there's strife between NATO countries, and you're going to call them a bunch of wussies, and then you're going to that's one more battlefront that you don't need. Like we need that. Like we need a hole in the head. Who needs that to have that strife between NATO? You just don't need it. It's an unforced error.
So if I may just suggest, and maybe I could be stoned, I don't know. If I may just suggest that the chance of a military conflict between the United States and NATO is literally, I'm just making sure that people...
That's not my point.
Is zero. You're not saying that.
Nope.
You're saying, but that's why I was asking, play it out in your mind. I want to
now we're going to be talking about that. Now, it's one more thing that people, because I care about the midterms. I don't care about anything else right now except the midterms. Just like I cared about the border, it's about the midterms.
So it's not military, it's politically you're thinking about.
Yes. I mean, I'm not worried about the military action of it. I'm talking about the political fallout of it. There's got to be these assessments done. Because guess what? All these wonderful ideas that everybody has, including on this show, go to zero, halt, zilch, if we don't win the midterms. So check. There you go. Everyone feel good about yourself because we didn't win. I want to win. That's the way I think about in trial, and that's the way I think about politically. So if we're not moving the needle in our direction, bringing people over, thinking about, I'm not saying you cower to people. I'm far from that. I'm just saying be strategic, right? Be wise. Reason. Think about things. Play these things out. That's all.
If I may play devil's advocate for a moment.
Please do.
So that's one angle. But Trump's saying, hey, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. Over the last month, he's flooded the zone with economic proposals. I mean, he has been pushing.
Okay.
Economic stimulus. He's been communicating more.
In Greenland?
So here.
Okay.
So to your point, because people care about what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to keep the lights on, pay for gas, buy groceries. And so he's flooding the zone on multi-pronged. I think he's exhausting the Democrats, frankly, but I feel exhausted too, by the way, Karen. I mean,
well, then just calm down because we got to take a break anyway.
I'll let you know if you're right after the midterms.
Okay, we're going to have one more segment on WOAI, so stick with us. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Please join us after the show starting at 10 a.m. We will continue on all of the social media platforms. Could you wrap this up for us, George, on what the situation is with Greenland, and Nico on why this is so important and the attitude as we go into the midterms?
Well, we were talking about it on break. I mean, Greenland is an autonomous protectorate of Denmark, right? So they're under the wing of Denmark, and they're allowed to have their own governance. And so it's kind of like an Alaska to us, right? And so for me, I understand what George is saying. I've never been worried about NATO doing crap. They're not doing anything to us. But point is to me, it's all about the midterms. George was saying on the break that all we have to do is lose one position in the House. And his,
one house.
One house.
Whether the house.
One house. Sorry. You're
whether
right.
House or the
That's
Senate.
right.
Yeah.
And Trump's presidency is over.
Yeah.
His presidency is done in November. Let that sink in. So put that prism.
In terms of being able to implement any of his agendas.
Yes, I mean, he's going to be impeached. He's going to be this. He's going to be stopped. He's going to be all the stuff that we, if most people like on the conservative side of what he's doing is over. And so everything is done. So just that's my mindset. It's not that I'm anti-Trump. Obviously, I'm pro-Trump. I mean, I supported him, but I'm going to criticize him when I believe it's appropriate. And so, and I'm not saying I'm criticizing person. I'm just saying, is he thinking of these things? He's got, and I thought the first approach, the visits, his son going with celebrities, putting up the whole fear of missing out, the whole hoopla, and the polls are playing that out. George, I'm sure you looked at the polls. He has lost support from the people of Greenland because of that move. And no one wants to be threatened. So I just think it's like, hey, I have something for you that you're missing, and I want to be part of that, President Trump. Yes, that's my humble opinion, and people can disagree.
Nothing like a little cash to help those poll numbers go up.
$2,000
$57,000. No, he's actually saying proposing giving each one of the 57,000 people some cash.
What? I have not heard that.
Yeah, and so the numbers range could be as much as $500,000. And I'll tell you right now, Greenlanders, for people who make about $30,000 to $40,000 a year on the island, they'll be all over that like a cheap suit to use it.
That's an old contractor in New York move.
Exactly.
Little grease the wheels.
So that's real. He threw out an opening bid. He threw out an opening bid, and Greenlanders are entertaining it.
I hope it's after we get our
Danish are
tariff
freaking
check.
out. And with all due respect to the Danish, give me a freaking break. So there's the Danish flag flying there, but then you look at how the Danish have managed the island, and they've literally let infrastructure go to pot, with the exception of the American stuff.
But that's the whole fear of missing out. If the United States had the approach of this is what we'll do for you, your infrastructure, you're this, you're that, and let the people say, we want that, we want protection, we want the blessings and the sphere of prosperity.
But it's true, it can happen for them, right?
Down. The Greenlander support or lack thereof is up and down. My point is, it's rather emotional, and so Trump, maybe a little cash will help him steady.
Yeah, well,
hey, work on Americans.
So I think that's it. I think that's a real possibility. And by the way, it would be a bargain. I just want to say this: if Russia, because it's not that far off, if under a Biden administration, under a Harris-Waltz administration, are you kidding me? They're already be under Russian control. If Russia takes control of Greenland, NATO's over.
Yep.
It's the lights go out. We have it's launch a missile right now. We will know instantly because of our footprint in Greenland. Yep. We lose that, and we won't know. And the only way those missiles can get here is literally by that flyover, right over in that area.
But see, this is the point. When you make that, this is my point. I just look. Let's move on to another topic. But all I'm saying is, I don't think it was necessary. He wasn't at that point, in my humble opinion. He's not at that point to where he's got to talk like a wise guy. That's all.
Okay, this is me changing the topic.
All right, change it.
Isn't it sad that the thing that Jerome Powell did was construction and renovations and building and overpricing and overrunning budgets, and now he's dealing with the builder, the real estate guy, that happens to be the president who does not like Jerome Powell. What is going on? Why was he subpoenaed? Can you give me a little bit of background to understand that?
Look, there's an argument that this is lawfare also. There seems to be concern of testimony Powell gave to Congress. They're looking into perjury regarding testimony about renovation of the federal building, which looks great, by the way. I mean, it seems like some pictures that I've seen. And so you can only remove a Fed chair, quote unquote, for a cause. So there's an argument that they're looking for that cause. Now, my argument is this. He's out in May anyway. Now, he stays on as a voting member. I think, George, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 12 voting members and 7 members of Board of Governors, but there's 5 extra people in the banking system that vote, and then the chair is a vote but can call votes and all this other. That whole system is screwy to me. But so he's out in May anyway. And so I look, there's an argument, but then here's the counter argument. Hey, Dems, you guys started this crap. This is what you get. Be careful the world you help create. And all I'm saying is, do we continue that tit-for-tat ping-pong game or a tennis match or whatever you want to do, and then let's just hope that you stay on board longer or more times than the other side? And then again, the Russia, the China, all these other people are like, man, you keep playing your ping-pong match and destroying yourself, and going at each other and having your Minnesota riots and having your hate for each other and having your whatever vitriol, and we'll continue to strategize against you as you're distracted. And that's I'm thinking big picture.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but disappointed the way the press kind of frames this. It's Trump going after Powell because he wants to be able to manipulate interest rates, and the reality is that there's something really noxious coming out of this Fed initiative, this Fed renovation project. And the reality is that Jerome Powell doesn't know what happened to $600 million. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So he testified, Nico, in June before the Senate Banking Committee, and you had, forget Trump for a moment, you had members of the Senate Banking Committee call him bull on his testimony, basically saying that the man lied.
Then if it's legit, then look into him. Yeah, I'm with you.
He's there. I mean, this is testimony. You can pull it up. You can see the testimony, and he says, there's no VIP dining room. There's no new marble. There are no special elevators. There are no new water features. There are no beehives. Yeah, you can actually do that, by the way, on the rooftops in urban centers. You can actually have raised beehives. And so, anyway, by the way, this is in the scope of the construction project. And he's saying there's none of this stuff, and there's no roof terrace gardens, except that the National Capital Planning Commission has this thing called a document, right? And which are the plans that he signed off on.
Who signed off on?
Jerome Powell.
Yeah, that says the following: the private dining rooms on level 4 of the Fled's Eccles building will be restored. The governor's private elevator will be extended to discharge at the dining suite level. There will be vegetated roof terraces that will welcome urban wildlife and pollinators, as well as new marble and water features.
Does it read like that?
It does.
With that tone? Okay.
Oh, no, not with that tone.
That elevator music tone?
Yeah. Sorry for the dramatic effect.
It's okay.
It worked.
And so Cynthia Loomis, I mean, it's just one example. We can't do it all here, but Cynthia Loomis is just one senator who's on the banking committee, and she came out and she goes, I don't understand. There's a number of factually inaccurate statements that this man made. The budget was $1.9 billion. You remember when Trump was walking around with him?
Yes.
$1.9 billion. At that time, Nico, it's at $2.5 billion. Where's the $600 million? Who the hell knows? And Trump, who happens to know something about construction, says by the time this actually finishes, like maybe sometime in 2027, we're going to be at $4 billion.
Have they done a forensic accounting of all that stuff?
Well, that's part of what this is. Janine Pirro, by the way, is the one who is
looking into it.
Yeah, she issued the subpoena.
Yeah,
and Janine Pirro pushed back on Powell, which I thought was crazy that he actually put a video. Did you see the video from Powell?
No.
Accusing the Trump administration of going after him for political purposes. Janine Pirro fired back and said, look, man, we've been after you for information, and you've been blowing us off because you're an independent agency and you're Jerome Powell and you walk between the raindrops. Well, enough of that. So we're issuing a subpoena. By the way, explain, a subpoena is not an indictment.
No.
He used the word indictment. And she said, hey, Jerome, the only one using the word indictment is you.
Yeah, subpoena is just you're making a request for someone to show up.
Although there is a criminal referral because it's kind of a crime to steal $600 million allegedly and to lie.
Are they saying he did it, or who's overlooking that budget?
He is. He presides over that.
I understand, but who does the inner workings?
Well, I don't know who he hired or who he brought on, but it's his responsibility.
This is what Letitia James did to Trump. Someone that filed his reports for him, labeled it a certain thing, but went after him. This is my point. Do we want to keep this standard going? And I'm not. Look, if Jerome Powell did something wrong, I'm for objective.
Well, I'm trying to understand. You run an organization, and some employees in your organization are guilty, let's say, of malfeasance. I mean, at the end of the day, the buck's got to stop somewhere. You run a law firm. You're ultimately responsible for what employees do. So Jerome Powell is responsible as the chief administrator for this. And people are saying this guy controls monetary policy for the entire country and that has global implications. And he can't handle $1.9 billion. And we're looking for $600 million. Where is that?
I'm with you on that. But this is why this public fight that Trump had with him leading up to this gives him cover. Because if I'm a defense attorney, I'm using that this is malicious prosecution. This is all political. I'm just telling you, you give them that when you have to make things so public, and him make it, instead of just keeping your powder dry and working behind the scenes and not, having Tourette's and saying your opinions, everything on Twitter, then people can use this because you hand things over. That's an unforced error. You don't have to tell everybody everything. Wait. At the right time, be transparent. I'm all for transparency. But this is my point. Now it looks bad. I'm not saying it is bad. Yeah. I'm saying it looks bad. And I'm not saying don't prosecute this dude. If he did something wrong, I don't care, then he needs to be prosecuted. I'm just saying it gives cover. That's all.
Yeah, I wasn't even focusing on the political stuff, although there is no love lost between the American people and the Fed. They might actually dislike the Fed more than they dislike Congress, which is quite a statement. But I think the only people who are standing up for him are, curiously, some people on the Senate Banking Committee, the very people who said, I don't think this man's telling us the truth. Where's this coming from? And then certain Democrats. So it's a weird analysis politically. I'm just trying to make the case that I think there's a legitimate case here to go after Jerome Powell, and it's got nothing to do with the political stuff.
Well, it seems like there's a legit case to look into it and investigate it for sure. Whether you go after him or not, I have no idea.
When I say go after him, he's responsible for this. He's the chief administrator. I mean, where's the money?
Yeah, that's
I just want to know where the money is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have an answer to the question. And I don't know.
It's at the Leering centers. That's where the money is.
But this is where you force yourself to claim gross incompetence or criminal culpability.
Yeah.
And so,
that's the issue.
You know what I'm saying? So is it against the law to be incompetent? I don't know. It depends on the standard that we're looking at and what statute we're looking at. So all I'm saying is this is why I have criticized constructively sometimes Trump making his battles and his opinions known too soon. Because then if something like this is happening, because this didn't come up yesterday, they had to have known. You don't think that there were conversations in the background saying like, hey, Jerome, you know we can look into this, right? Why don't you step down? I don't want to step down. I'm telling you. Well, I'm telling you too. All right. But see, but now it's too late because Trump has made his opinions known. All I'm saying is, look, this is a big chess game.
And this has been going on for a while, hasn't it?
Yes.
This was in Trump 1.0.
Yes.
And Trump brought Powell on after being referred to by Steve Mnuchin, the head of the Treasury at the time, and he's regretted that choice.
Look at this. Now
so you can prematurely release the Kraken. By saying things before.
You gave me a flashback. So now we're going to talk about boys, men, and women on the after show because we didn't get a chance to talk about it now. Yes. So join us. Thank you for joining us, guys. This is the second to last weekend. We have one more weekend on the radio. We're not doing anything wrong on social media. Everything stays the same on social media. But those of you that have been only listening on the radio, please start looking. Go to sidebartv.com. Look for a social media platform so you can stay with us. Same times. Nothing's changing for those on social media. But now we're going to do the after show for a little while. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy Martin Luther King Day. God bless you.
Okay, so what is a woman? I forget.
well, speaking of women, look, I'm gonna be more vocal as we get closer to elections when it comes to judicial races because it is important. Arguably some of the most important races in a community are judicial races because when there's conflict, there's civil custody issues, criminal situations, allegations, making rulings on evidence and holding the government accountable or holding people accountable or whatever you want to do, either side, citizen or the government. Judicial races are important. Of course, DA race is important. All this should be nonpartisan, by the way. This irritates the crap shit out of me because if these races were nonpartisan, if the DA race was nonpartisan, if the sheriff race was nonpartisan,
you're so right.
If all these judicial races, district and county, were nonpartisan, then it would force people to get to know the candidate instead of just, because there's crappy people on the Republican side and crappy people on the Democrat side. But one of them for County Court 9, that is my law partner, one of my law partner's wives, Maritza Perez Stewart, for County Court 9. She's running in the Democrat primary. So if you're a Democrat and you listen to our show, please tell other people, County Court 9, Maritza Perez Stewart. And then for the 187th, Stephanie Franco is running against Stephanie Boyd. And we do not support Stephanie Boyd. I think she has no business being a judge. I'm just being honest, and I can back it up objectively. Ironically, I hired her as an assistant DA when I was district attorney, but something has happened when you get on the bench. It seems like, and Stephanie Franco was also a prosecutor when I was DA, and she's. I think she'll be a wonderful jurist, and I think we'll take the politics and all the showboating out of a courtroom and just go back to being a judge. You know, Stephanie Boyd's the one that has that YouTube video, and you know, the camera's on her the whole time, and then, you know, she puts people's business out there, and that's an open court, but come watch it. And, you know, if you want to come to the courthouse, come to the courthouse, and then it just becomes very much of a circus show when you're playing to a camera instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing as a judge and an impartial jurist. So Stephanie Franco for the 187th. This, again, Democrat primary. So if you are voting in the Democrat primary, I know a lot of our listeners will never vote in a Democrat primary. But, you know, you have Alamo Talk and Mark Antoine and other people out there. Those are just two of many judge recommendations. Now, unfortunately, we don't do a lot of civil work. We have a lawyer in our office, but I'll still be making some maybe recommendations down the road because those deal with family matters, you know, property issues, money issues, all kinds of stuff. You want the right judge on a bench. So that's all. Those two, Marita Perez Stewart and Stephanie
No,
Franco.
we need the help. We need the help, and people should jot that down so that they'll remember. One thing, as we wrapped up on the show, Annette said on Facebook is, when you're talking about unforced errors, Nico, she says, I think we forget to include the media in everything this administration does because many, you know, quote unquote, unforced errors are actually due to the media. And I have been seeing that more and more. I mean, of course, we've been seeing it for the last 10 years, but it is very odd that if you're just looking at headlines, that things like the Jerome Powell situation, the Greenland situation, the Venezuela situation only shows one side. And people really don't have a lot of time these days. I know you guys are busier than anything, but you know when you have a few minutes to dig in and find out what the real story is, but a lot of people don't have that time. I mean, what can be done about the media? Even what this week, I think Caroline Levitt addressed one reporter and said, you know, why are you asking that question? What's going on? It's obvious that you're not a real reporter. You're just a propagandist.
You have to get the public to have a thirst for objective reporting.
Wait, I have to say one thing before I forget. Even the attack ads on your brother, I'm like, can people just make stuff up?
Yeah, they can. I mean, they do.
And they do.
Or they take things out of context. I mean, look, I've heard about them. I haven't seen them, but Mark's ads I hear very well.
They're awesome. Yeah.
It's so good for him. And whoever's advising him is advising him well on that. But that's what happens, and we're emotional. And here's what I tell people. I believe none of what I read and only half of what I see. And the context of that statement is there's more. There's more. Look at the trial that we're in right now. People came in with their minds made up.
100%.
Because the media narrative sucked. And I said this to only one media. Even our local media can suck. And I'm not gonna reward bad behavior. And so I tell media outlets, I was like, look, I'll only do an interview with you if you let me rail on you. I'm going to rail on you. If you don't want it, then go fuck off. I'm not going to talk to you about this. You're not going to get the story. Because I can't, look, report the truth. Report the truth and let the chips fall where they may. Let people make up their own minds. If you want to be an opinion writer, say you're an opinion writer. Do not disguise yourself as a journalist. And that's the problem. But if the society doesn't have a thirst for truth and objective truth, well, then everybody wants to be told what they want. That's why people watch CNN and MSNBC. Other people watch Fox and Newsmax. I don't want to be told what I want to hear. I want to be told the truth. Because I can stay in my bubble and think things are great, and then you walk out of your bubble, this sucks. Yeah, because you stayed in your bubble, and you only listen to people in an echo chamber tell you what you wanted to hear. Again, that doesn't move the needle. That's wonderful. If you want to have a little powwow, get encouraged, train up, and then go out and try to change hearts and minds. But the media, that's not their job. Their job is to report the truth. It's supposed to hold people in power accountable by educating the public. It's like, hey, Mr. Powerful Dude, Miss Powerful Lady, you don't get away with shit. I'm gonna report to people, not with my opinion. Yeah. I'm gonna report A, B, and C to them, and they can do what they want to with A, B, and C. And that's not what's happening anymore.
But
people
don't you? Oh, go ahead.
I think traditionally the media has always had a liberal bend to it.
It has, yes.
I think that's always been the case, but it's never been decidedly and overtly anti-America like it is now. Mm-hmm. The media repeatedly takes sides of anarchy and communism against the United States, which is reprehensible and disgusting. But it's understandable because the media hires people from the same pool of graduates, you will, as any other industry. And if you go through the average
human resources department and the average corporation, it's hardly conservative. Where does that come from? I mean, does anyone step back and say, where does this come from? How is it that this is literally finding a conservative anywhere in any position of influence in a corporation, in an academic institution, whether as an administrator or on the staff or in a faculty, or in your average bureaucracy, finding a conservative is like finding a needle in a haystack. And by the way, there's peer review research showing that. I mean, how did that happen? It's a concerted effort to pitch one narrative about the country, one narrative about reality. And all of it is hateful and destructive to the United States. Where did that happen? And we know, we'll save that for another day, but this has been a concerted effort by the left in the country, and they've been very, very successful. And you see a lot of this inside the national media, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, because Nico always says, be careful of the world you help create. But I'm thinking that the media is protected by the First Amendment, explicitly so. Press freedom is a big deal. So it's a tall hurdle to go after the media, because the question was, what can be done about the media?
Don't watch them. Don't watch them.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Just don't watch it.
But don't you feel
and
so
have a
sorry
counter narrative
for? I don't know. That is not even what I meant to say. But I feel sick when I see some of the people, for example, that follow or go along with these protesters in Minnesota. When do they just not know that some of them are just paid to do that, and that they don't care what the cause is? They're going to do it because they're getting paid to do it. And then these pathetic people that don't know what's going on are following them and getting shot and killed.
Bias is a funny thing. When you're told what you want to hear, and you start fit in a circle in a square, and blue becomes white, and white becomes blue, and right becomes wrong, and wrong becomes right, and sweet becomes bitter, and bitter becomes sweet. Isaiah 9, 5:20. What is it?
Yeah.
Was it Isaiah 9, right, or Isaiah 5? But
Five.
my 5, right? Yeah, I thought so. 5:20. But all I'm saying is that bias is a funny thing, and you see it in trials, you see it in people testifying, right? We're doing it right now.
Yes.
It's like, are you kidding me? We're going to argue over at versus towards.
Yeah.
We're going to argue over where you can stare at two people at the same time, and then, well, it's not really on or about, approximately. It's like, what are you? I mean, we get into that type of this. And so people play that game in their minds because they want to fit a narrative in their heart. And so all that to say is people need to reject that. And that's why I think social media platforms and other independent journalists are getting more airtime, because people don't trust the mainstream media, rightfully so. But yet they're going to hang on to it. You're still going to want to look at it. But it disgusts me when you report the information with a slant, and it's not objective.
I think that's right, and they still have enormous influence. I mean, the New York Times, for goodness sakes, the Washington Post. I mean, they have enormous influence. Now it's obviously depleting. You can see it, but it still has enormous influence. So when the New York Times reports something, I mean, they're the go-to printed source these days, and they have been for over a century. But it's pretext over context. That's the problem. To Nico's point, it's mostly peaceful protests. Seriously?
Right.
People are you got people dying in the streets. There's Summer of Love in 2020. Remember, the most peaceful country. People are literally dying. You've got billions of dollars damage. Buildings are on fire. There's people on top of cars breaking glass and hurting one another, but it's mostly peaceful. That's a pretext. You don't care about the context. You care about the pretext. What is that? It's a preconceived notion of reality that you buy into. Nico mentioned bias. Every human being has bias. He has bias. I've got bias. The question is, does your bias govern overall? If somebody brings you a set of facts that contradicts your bias, are you willing to change your mind? If not, that's called confirmation bias. In other words, you only entertain facts that already align with what you already believe. And that's what we're seeing inside the media, confirmation bias. And that is a disservice to Americans. And I think in certain cases, it's to the point where libel is committed or defamation, and then you can sue the media. But that's a tall hurdle, isn't it, Nico, to actually show that the media recklessly and willfully reported something and it caused harm.
Well, Trump did it, but overall...
Well, I think it was a little tough in his case. I mean, it was very obvious that it was causing harm. And, I mean, he's been largely successful in those. But look, I mean, that's Trump, right? To have that kind of visibility and to be able to show that kind of objective harm. The average American, the average person can't do that. So, yeah, I mean, they're at a huge disadvantage. But you got to push back. And we can. Social media has opened up channels to the average person. Now, I would argue there's a lot of negative to that, too. I don't think I don't think everything that somebody thinks is worth sharing. And social media has created that. I don't think that's a good thing. But
I agree with
bad.
that. But at the same time, if we didn't have social media, no one would know the name Nick Shirley. And I'm not saying that he was the only person that caused everybody to open their eyes about the Somalian community in Minnesota, but it sure helped things to become public because it was on social media.
Well, that's a good thing about social media, because back in the day, they used to say, don't pick a fight with someone who buys ink by the barrel, right? That you can't compete with the newspaper. You can't compete with social. You can't compete with mainstream media. Well, now you can.
Yes.
If you have the right platform, things can go quote unquote viral. People can get in. You can get your message out. And this is relatively new. Even when I was in politics the years ago that it wasn't that way as effective. It was there, but it wasn't as effective as now. And so that's the blessing of social media, in my opinion. I mean, you can get good information and bad information out at the speed of light, but it's a weapon. But talking about trans people.
Okay, that kills me, though, because as we see all of those videos from before of Obama and Clinton talking about the border and immigration, illegals, people, do they not remember that is being recorded and it will exist forever? For example, the doctor that is asked about, can a man get pregnant? Like, that will exist forever. So does she actually believe that men can get?
Of course she doesn't. It's all in the definition.
How can she just sit there and do that?
It's all in the definition. She didn't ask. She wanted to answer with an emotional answer versus a biological truth answer. And the reality is, Hawley did a very good job. I would have done a little bit different in the sense. I mean, so when people come in, you make decisions based off their biological makeup. You do certain medications, certain things. You do things different for a woman than a man because there's medical. They're not the same. Their DNA is different, right? Their chromosomes are different, and so medication and things you do to help them can be different. And so what does it take? What biological features does it take to have a baby? Well, then she goes, it takes a penis and sperm. Okay, well, to house the baby, it takes a uterus, it takes this and a vagina and all this other stuff. You want to say that, okay, tubes. Well, then, and those are associated with what kind of person? Well, it depends. What do you mean by that? Well, no, what is it? Where do you, if I'm looking at a group of people, the people with penises and the people with vaginas, how do you label them? It's question it's kindergarten cop to me, right? A little kid goes, yes. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. Well, no, I mean it's that simple. I mean, it was in a movie, and even a kindergartner, and it's destructive to be confused over that. Now, if you want to say here are biological truth, there are men and there are women, but there are psychological opinions or psychological feelings that we deal with that can influence what they believe. That's a different discussion. But that chick looked fucking stupid as hell. She just, and she's not. She's not a stupid woman, but she's ignorant. So there's no way she's stupid. But she looked batshit crazy because she was willfully ignorant in her answers, and they were very deceptive. And she looked up kind of weirdo. I mean, I just think that's so. I was embarrassed. Well, I'm not embarrassed for her. She should be embarrassed of herself. It was embarrassing.
Her client should be.
It's ironic.
Well, she was a doctor.
She literally, a doctor of. She's an OBGYN, right?
Oh. Yes.
Theoretically,
I wouldn't go to somebody like that.
I know this just gets ridiculous. But see, but this is the point to which.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you looking at?
Yeah, what is that?
There's nothing down there. Don't look.
What is that?
God, idiot.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a redefinition. She was trying to redefine, and Hawley's trying to come back to what is objectively inarguable. And she's uncomfortable with that, and then she accuses him of using this for political posturing. Ironically, but that's
the move.
I'm of the opinion because people say there's no way she believes that because he goes, of course she doesn't believe it. Well, she senses the tension. I think there's a part of her that's like you're being an idiot, but at the same time she's around this enough surrounded by people that think just like her. That literally say this is legitimate. This is the problem.
That it's okay.
Is that you do it over and over and over again. You do it for a couple generations, and this becomes reality. Think about how dangerous that. It actually came up during the Supreme Court, the oral arguments in the Supreme Court. Roberts, I think, brought that up beautifully the way he did it, because it ultimately came down to this very simple fact of what is a man and what is a woman, what is a boy and what is a girl, and this huge subsidized effort in the United States over the last decade to lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
And to lie to our kids, to tell ourselves the opposite in the name of education. It's sick and crazy. But it shows the power. It shows the power of telling a lie over and over and over again. That is clearly a lie. And I just use the analogy of somebody saying, hey, it's raining outside. You realize that. Make sure when you walk outside, you take an umbrella. And you're literally looking outside. And you're saying, but I see clear skies. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's sunshine. It's like 90 degrees. No, seriously. When you go out, make sure you wear it. No, but I'm looking at it. It doesn't matter what you see. You tell a lie over and over and over and over again. You institutionalize that lie. And then this is all kids know. For 12 years of their education, 7 hours a day, and they'll believe it. And this woman is clearly part of that industry. And that's scary shit.
Yeah.
And you saw it during the arguments, Nico. There's two cases that came before the court. It was interesting that Hawley was having this conversation, and this was actually being played out on Tuesday in the United States Supreme Court. These are two cases, one in Idaho and West Virginia, both involving, of course, trans-identifying men who are challenging statutes, laws that say that men can't be in women's sports, which used to be common sense. But they're challenging that on the basis that it's unconstitutional. There's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment and so forth, and that it's a violation of Title IX because there's now a question of what sex actually means. Like there was actually any question in 1967 when Congress was talking about sex. The notion of identification being a sex or gender identity. Sex is sex. You are assigned a sex? Really? You're assigned a sex, or you just are? So they literally talked about in assignment terms. That's the problem. There is no assignment. What sex were you assigned? I'm not assigned a damn thing. I was born with a pole or a hole. It's one or the other. Mm-hmm. That's inherent. And so I love that the court kind of came back to that. And here's Roberts. He said to Kathleen Hartlett during his questioning in Little v. Hecox, this is the Idaho case. And I think the name Hecox is interesting in light of what it is that we're discussing here. But
kidding.
Kathleen Hartlett, she's questioned by Roberts, and he says he asked her about whether or not the court should view her position as, quote, a challenge to the distinction between boys and girls on the basis of sex, or whether or not she's perfectly comfortable with the distinction between boys and girls. He was trying to get a sense of what's at issue here. Where's the tension? Are we really questioning here the definition of boys and girls? What's at issue? And then he said, look, I'm concerned about the can of worms that this is going to open, because he said if we adopted this ambiguity, then that would have to apply across the board and not just simply the area of athletics, no? Right. And so he presented the very simple, what everybody's thinking. Imagine the chaos of having that kind of confusion run through the heart of how you view everything, for which she had absolutely no response. This is childish. You don't consider the implications. It's all about political wins. You don't consider the implications of whatever it is that you're trying to argue. And I love that Roberts came back. And by the way, none of the conservative jurors seemed convinced by the argument. So it leaned very strongly in favor of upholding the laws in Idaho and West Virginia and keeping men out of women's lockers and men out of women's sports. Because guess what? The original Title IX had it differently. Men and women are actually fundamentally different. But the idea that this actually has to come to the United States Supreme Court, that's an indictment, a sad commentary on where we are as an American society. How did we get here?
The fact that the Supreme Court has to weigh in on this type of situation tells you everything, and it tells you about our academia. To George's point, for years,
yep.
And it's. I mean, this is dangerous. This is not. That's why I said years ago, if you remember, Karen, the whole bathroom bill. I said, it's not about bathrooms, guys. Wake up. It's not about bathrooms. You go in there, you're going to take a leak or dump. Get out of there, man. This is not a social club. It's not about bathrooms. It's something deeper. And people say, what's the big deal? Who cares? And then now those people are like, oh, shit, I guess it was a big deal. Yeah, there was a strategy to this. Don't give a foothold, right? So you have this little crack in the dam. and then the pressure and the pressure, and over time, and then you have this ideological shift where people truly get convinced. I mean, it's sad, and so we have to push back on this. This is not a joke.
Who would have thought that all that it would take, Nico, to stump a high court solicitor by Justice Alito would be to simply ask to define a man and a woman?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought we'd be at this point? Is that literally the toughest question of her career? So all that law school, all that training, and all it took to stump you was to ask you to define a man versus a woman. That's where we are today. It's absurd. How do we get here? You tell a lie long enough. This is why this stuff has to stop. This has to stop. This is a must-win issue. This isn't rhetorical. We have to win this. Can you imagine allowing this kind of confusion and memorializing it and then institutionalizing it and then legalizing it and enforcing it down people's throats? You'll have absolute chaos. Who needs to worry about one shot being fired from China and Russia when you have this kind of confusion running through the heart of your society? So anyway, thank goodness for the way things seem to go in the United States Supreme Court. Thank goodness for that, because it does look like sanity is about to prevail. We'll see.
I know that everybody, every vote is so important, especially during the midterms, but it sometimes feels like lately that there are little cracks, especially like at CNN and definitely CBS, that actually say that the Democrats really need to watch out if they think that they're ahead, because they're not. And the polls, even though we have a lot of them that say Trump's losing in the polls with his popularity, he really isn't. It's just on certain topics or certain circumstances. I mean,
he's taking a hit. I mean, Trump, the reality is that Trump's taken a hit on the issue that drives Americans to the ballot. And those issues are immigration and economy. Nothing new there. And he's done very, very well on immigration. The clashes, and this is what the Democrats want. They're trying to take a clearly losing issue for them into a winning issue by showing ICE being these draconian and for Tim Walz and others to refer to them as Gestapo is completely unconscionable. But that's what they want. They want this Nazified version of ICE to get Americans to forget that that's actually what they voted for. There is no kind or sweet, cuddly, warm way to get 14 million people out of the country. By the way, these are 14 million people just in the era of Biden.
Yeah.
There's no, and I asked the question, what's the way to do this? Please tell me. These people are burrowed inside the American interior. How do you get them out? Now, they have come out, because people keep saying you need to go after the criminals first, and they actually finally came out. The Department of Homeland Security published results and said, look, just so everybody knows, 70% of our arrests are criminal element. People have either been charged or convicted of crimes. Illegal aliens who have been charged or convicted of crimes. 70% of our arrests. But Tom Homan says, if we know that there's 50 illegal aliens over there and they don't necessarily have a criminal record, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're not going to look the other way. How else do you go after 14 million people who aren't here legally that the American public voted for to have removed?
Again, it's managing expectations. You just got to let the public know what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, and expect them. Like when you tell a witness, I told the guy at the beginning of his cross-examination, look, I'm going to question your opinions. I'm not attacking your character. It's not right now, but I'm going to question your opinions. I'm going to question your perspectives, and you understand that I have to do that, right? And so if you need me to repeat a question, so I'm managing, but I'm more managing the jury's expectation. In the end, I mean, the witness gets offended. I'm not worried about that. But it does matter. I can make a great point, but if it lays flat on the jury, well, then it did nothing. So that's the way I look at things. So you got to prepare and manage expectations of who your audience you're trying to convince. But I have got. Speaking of jury, I got to. You guys can keep talking. I got to go because I have a witness that I need to talk to and prepare for next week. I didn't realize they had to push up their time. So I'm on a condensed time schedule right now, so I'm going to cut it off early, guys. I'm sorry, unless you guys
No, that's fine.
For a while.
This is very important what you're doing.
Yeah, I got to go, guys. But thanks, guys, for joining us. Sorry that I have to rush out of here. I got a phone call that I have got to go because I was confused on the times. But thanks for joining in. We have one more week left. So tell people that you think listen to the radio. Those that watch only on social media, streaming, you're fine. Nothing's going to change. The time is not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is no commercials, or at least not traditional radio commercials. We may do some sponsorship commercials and things like that, but they'll be shorter and they'll be good. So we appreciate your support. Please keep spreading the word, and even people that disagree with us, we welcome them. We want different opinions. Have those conversations. It makes your opinion either stronger and sharpens your sword, or maybe you can convince in another way. I'm always open-minded to learning something new. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy Martin Luther King Day with your family and this extra day off. God bless you. Bye-bye.